Welcome to the Spiritist Companion Podcast. My name is Yuri Castro, and I'll be your companion on this journey where we study, reflect, and apply Spiritist teachings. If you like what you hear, don't forget to subscribe and follow us so that you never miss an episode. Today's topic is both gentle and profound. We're going to talk about resignation, not as passive suffering, but as a powerful spiritual force. So, what does Spiritism teach us about accepting life's trials? And how can we distinguish resignation from giving up? Let's reflect together. And the message of today's episode comes from the Gospel according to Spiritism, Chapter 5, Blessed are the Afflicted, and this message comes from the Spirit Lacordaire, and he says, Blessed are the afflicted may be translated in the following manner. Blessed are those who have occasion to prove their faith, firmness, perseverance, and submission to the will of God, because they will have multiplied 100 times the happiness they lacked on earth. So this spirit is already alluding to the fact that we are in a planet of suffering. Therefore, happiness, true happiness, is very, very hard and rare to find. But that those who are suffering, those who are understanding the suffering, who are doing it with firmness, perseverance, who are proving their faith and their submission to the will of God, those, in other words, that suffer with resignation, the afflicted that suffer with resignation, they will have multiplied 100 times the happiness they lacked on earth. Obviously talking about spiritual happiness, considering the immortality of the soul and the multiple lives and reincarnations of the spirit. But what is resignation exactly? Well, in everyday language, resignation can sound like giving up. But in the Spiritist context, the meaning is very different. We understand that resignation is the calm and conscious acceptance of life's difficulties, grounded in faith, in trust in divine justice, and in the certainty that everything has a purpose. In that same chapter I just mentioned, Blessed are the Afflicted, chapter number 5 of the Gospel according to Spiritism, we learn with Allan Kardec that the true spirit of resignation is not submission to fatalism, but the recognition that suffering is part of the divine plan for our growth. So it's not just submitting to situations and thinking that everything has a fate and everything is doomed and there's nothing I can do. Let me just cross my arms and sit idly by where everything is happening. That is definitely not what resignation is according to the Spiritist view. Because Spiritism, my dear friends, reminds us that life is not random. Everything we experience, the joys and the sorrows, are opportunities lovingly permitted by divine wisdom so that we may develop virtues, we may repair past mistakes, we may grow morally. In other words, we can develop those things that will stay with us forever. The virtues that we always talk about. To repair past mistakes, in other words, the expiation, that's another word that often comes around. And to grow morally, meaning to grow morally from the trials and tribulations and the atonements, but also all the challenges that the Spirit accepts, bravely accepts, knowing that it will lead to its own spiritual growth. In the Spirit's book, we also learn that before reincarnating, many souls choose the trials they will face, knowing that certain experiences are necessary. They're necessary to cultivate the virtues that we talked about. That's why resignation is not weakness. It's actually the opposite. It's a sign of spiritual maturity, of spiritual strength, but one that is silent. When we really internalize resignation and we apply it, we stop asking, oh, why is this happening to me? This is so unfair. We stop complaining and revolting, and we start asking, what can I learn from this? How can I better deal with this? Is there anything I can do in this situation to make it better, to change it? The spirit benefactor Emmanuel, who wrote through Chico Xavier, he tells us that resignation is neither defeat nor discouragement. It is the luminous serenity of the soul that trusts God even amid storms. Again, we're seeing the same theme going around, the faith, the submission to the will of the Creator. Emmanuel reminds us that resignation is not inertia, it's not giving up the fight, but fighting without bitterness, with hope and prayer instead. Resignation is not the end of effort, it's the beginning of inner peace. The other benefactor that gave us so much on resignation, Joanna de Angelis, she says that resignation is the intelligent acceptance of what cannot be changed right now, without the revolt that generates psychic imbalance. And Joanna de Angelis is always focused on harmony, on bringing balance to the spirits, especially in the psychological context as well. So for her, resignation is closely linked to emotional maturity, because when we resist what cannot be changed, what happens is we suffer more. So when we resist what cannot be changed, we actually suffer more. But when we understand and accept it with clarity, we gain peace, we gain strength, and we even gain inner healing from those processes. And this, my dear friends, is far from passivity. It's the conscious choice to trust in God's timing and focus on what we truly can transform, which are our thoughts, our attitudes, our inner world. Those are the things we have control over, total control over. And those are the things that we must focus on, the thoughts, the sentiments, the attitudes, cultivating the virtues in our inner world. From the Spiritist point of view, therefore, many of our pains, we understand, are connected to the law of cause and effect, whether as reparations for past actions, which are the expiations that we talk about, or as lessons necessary for our progress. Oftentimes, the pain, the suffering, the afflictions, they come as a means, as almost like a chisel that's going to help sculpt our inner selves. Actually, André Luiz, who also wrote Through the Hands of Chico Xavier, he says that pain accepted with understanding, in other words, resignation, pain accepted with understanding becomes a sacred fire that burns away pride and accelerates spiritual growth. He's alluding to this notion of pain when accepted with resignation leads to spiritual growth. So it's this fire that molds the character, because resignation is not imprisonment, it's a path to inner liberation. We are not helpless victims. We are immortal spirits in a process of learning, even in the moments we don't yet understand. In the Gospel according to Spiritism, Kardec is going to tell us that blessed are the afflicted, for they shall be consoled. He says it's much like we owe something to a creditor, and this creditor, in this way God, let us pay off our debts. So the shall be consoled aspect of it, Kardec's going to say, refers to the person being happy because they are paying their debts, and also because after payment they will be free. But a lot of the times when we face things with revolt, what we're actually doing, or if we don't accept them with resignation, we are contracting new debts, which in turn makes us lose the fruits which should have been gathered from these sufferings. We miss out on the teachings that the suffering brings. Another great author, Leon Denis, is going to tell us in his book, After Death, that pain, under its multiple forms, is the supreme remedy or the medicine for all imperfections, for all the illnesses and sicknesses of the soul. He's highlighting how pain can be, therefore, this instrument, this medicine, the remedy for the imperfections of a soul that is still learning so much. And resignation goes hand in hand with that, because with this understanding that a lot of the time pain can be this medicine that doesn't taste good, that we don't like to take, but we must take, outlook or perspective on the situation can change drastically. And when we align that with faith, with the submission to God, we have the recipe, therefore, for resignation. We have the elements necessary to resign and understand the strength in surrendering. It's important to be very clear here, my dear friends. Resignation, therefore, is not giving up your inner power. It's not accepting injustice or abuse. It's not surrendering your dignity. To resign is to remain serene in the midst of chaos because you trust in divine wisdom. You trust in the divine process and the will of God. Emmanuel told us that resignation is the luminous bridge between suffering and peace, and it is. And it's something we must try to achieve. We must try to build this luminous bridge, this bridge of light between suffering and peace. But how can I apply these concepts? Well, I brought 4 things that we can try to do. Number 1, pray with purpose. So when facing trials, my dear friends, pray not only asking for solutions, because we often do that, don't we? We ask for the problem to just simply go away, to disappear. But instead of doing that, maybe let us pray for the strength to understand and endure them with dignity. Number 2, reflect in silence. Accept what cannot be changed today while planting seeds of faith for tomorrow in silence. Number 3, avoid comparisons. Each spirit has its own path. Comparing our pain to others or how others deal with their pain, if they're doing it better than us, that can breed revolt. So trusting your soul's journey, trusting your own individual process is very key here. So avoiding these comparisons, which is always so hard. Number 4, do the good you can. Resignation, remember, is not stagnation. Keep serving, loving, learning, even if you're carrying a large and heavy cross on your back. All we need to do is remember our dear Master and how he resigned, how he exercised the resignation aspect of the soul throughout all his passage here, but especially in that final moment, that terrible moment where he was walking with the cross on his shoulders, where he was unfairly judged and sentenced to die by crucifixion. He resigned. He showed us resignation. Therefore, my dear friends, resignation doesn't make noise. It doesn't receive applause, but it is one of the highest forms of spiritual courage, of showing our spiritual strength. It's the strength, therefore, to say, I don't understand yet, but I trust. I am suffering, but I won't revolt. I don't know what lies ahead, but I keep walking with God. Once again, let us learn from the Master Jesus, who in his most painful moment declared, Father, not my will, but yours be done. We have reached the end of this episode. Thank you so much once again, my dear friends, for being here with me today in the Spiritist Companion podcast. I hope this talk about resignation and how we can apply it was very useful to you. So if it was useful, if it touched your heart, maybe share it with someone who might be going through a difficult time, or someone who just needs a little light, a little consolation, a little hope. We'll be back next Monday with another reflection through the lens of Spiritism. Until then, may peace guide your heart and may resignation strengthen your soul. With fraternal love, your Spiritist companion.